So my name is Andre Dukes, and I am the Director of Family Academy for the Northside Achievement Zone in North Minneapolis. And I have had the privilege of presenting here at the 2014 Summer Institute. It has been a wonderful experience talking about fathers. Our topic for our subject was mining the untapped resources of fathers. And fathers are truly a resource when you think about the development of children. Fathers really impact development at birth, and we really want to have fathers engaged early in the life of the child and know exactly how they are impacting that child's development across the lifespan. And part of that is addressing this issue of male masculinity and really unfolding why it is that men don't see themselves as caregivers and particularly as nurturers when in fact they are nurturers. And we really want to highlight that and help practitioners and help fathers understand the importance of that on development and how we can engage more fathers.
And just to go off of that a little bit, I'm Glen and I have been a professor of child and family studies at St. Cloud State for 30 years and recently retired. So my involvement currently with fatherhood is I'm on the board of Minnesota Fathers and Families Network, and I'm doing some work with them. And this idea of importance of fathers and getting them involved early is, I think, one of the main themes that we wanted to make. So being at this particular institute and being able to focus on young children, and I would even say we should go before birth and get into pregnancy a little bit. So when mom gets pregnant, dad should be engaged that early. And mining the untapped resources, we took untapped resources from Kyle Pruitt in a book that he wrote in 2000 called Father Need. And when you think about fathers, and he talks about them as a natural resource that's renewable and basically non-toxic, but that it's a resource that we haven't used. And when you look at some of the problems that we face in society today, poverty is one of them in terms of families, and the other one that we talk about a lot is achievement gap. Fathers are not engaged nearly enough in, and if they were, and we figured out how to get them engaged with their kids, those two problems we could have some impact on because fathers were more engaged. So I think that's one of the messages that we wanted to give. I think the other one that we started off with yesterday was taking a look at, there's sort of two images of fathers out there, and there's sort of a continuum of father involvement. One is sort of the new involved father, and there's a lot of men who get involved right away, are taking care of their kids, all the way to the extent of being stay-at-home dads. And then on the other end, in a study that we did for Minnesota Fathers and Families Network back in 2007, one of the things we found is that fathers weren't counted. And we, in the sense we couldn't find them in the birth records. They weren't keeping track of who fathers were. And so we coined the term fathers in the shadows. And so there are men in the shadows who their involvement with their kids is not quite clear, and their relationship with their kids. And talking to people who are doing early childhood special ed and early childhood programs, it's important for them to realize that they're seeing more fathers because of this new involved father end of the continuum, and they're thinking, boy, I'm doing a great job of getting fathers in, but mostly fathers are bringing themselves in. And on the other end, it's really hard to know what to do. And that's where we're seeing more and more children with fathers who are in the shadows. And in the shadows may mean they're incarcerated. It may mean that they're probably not living with the child, and the amount of time that they spend with the child is uncertain.
Just talking a little bit more about male socialization, we really think about, as a culture, the attitudes that we have towards males from the time that they are born, and how we have really created men to think that they should be competitive, they should be aggressive, And these are really counter to what we think about when we think about nurturing children. However, I think what is important is that when you think about the primary caregiver, that a lot of times we think about the woman or the mother being the primary caregiver, and we see that as a dual responsibility between both mother and father, and that they both bring equally important attributes to the parenting process. And so we want to really look at, through this male socialization, how can we value masculinity and really create systems that are going to be father friendly and really promote the things that fathers bring to parenting that help in their child's development.
And how can we make it okay for boys to learn nurturing? It's really interesting. Probably about 25 years ago, there was a book that came out, that Boys and Babies. It was a wonderful book. They brought babies into a group of middle school kids, boys, just boys, and let the boys play with the babies. Yeah. And the boys had a great time. And it was the book full of pictures, wonderful pictures. And boys don't get much of a chance to be around babies because people don't trust them for a variety of reasons these days. But it was really fascinating to see that they were primed to do that and ready to do that in this situation. But our boys these days don't get much opportunity to do that. I notice with some boys, one of the ways that we get around that sometimes is if they take care of pets. I watched my son, he got a bunny, and his bunny was just, you watch the nurturing just sort of come out of him. So if we don't give boys opportunities to nurture, by the time they get to be fathers, whether they're 20 or 30, they haven't had as much practice as girls. So parent education for fathers, from my perspective, is more important than it is for mothers, because mothers have been socialized to do some of that. Boys haven't. And that's kind of what we're talking about with socialization. Another piece that we spent some time on yesterday was attachment, and thinking about fathers and their pathways to attachment. And that, they're really primed at birth to, and most fathers now are attending the birth, and so they're there. It's a wonderful experience. You ask them, and they say, I held baby for the first time. I cut the cord, and for them, it's this peak experience. But then after that, having them maintain some engagement and caring for the kids, and we have basically our society, the way the rules are set up. Dad goes back to work after a couple of days, in most cases, and he doesn't get time off to take care of his kid. But that's a critical time to include dads and help dads understand and feel comfortable with that role and picking up cues. It's sort of fascinating what we're finding about the sort of biochemical responses going on in dad's brains. So we took a look inside dad's brains yesterday to just see what are some of the processes that seem to be going on, and how can we really support those so that they can develop into some skills and some confidence and some comfort.
And I think the bottom line is that dads matter. And the message that we really want to send to fathers is that what you do does make a difference. And so we really believe that fathers can, should, and will be engaged in the life of their child early and throughout the lifespan.